Hi everyone, welcome back to Lifting the Lamp. And today I'm going to be doing another video on the meanings of the major arcana of the tarot, otherwise known as the tarot trumps. This is video 2 of 3 in my series on the major arcana, and I'm going to be covering in this video cards numbered 7 through 13 in the trumps, or the Chariot through to death. If you want to see my descriptions of the previous 7 tarot trumps, just go to the link in the description below for that content. Now here's trumps 7 through 13. Starting off with number 7 in the trumps, this is the Chariot card. So this card represents willpower, determination, becoming the master of our own fate. One kind of symbol or metaphor that's very useful for understanding the meaning of the Chariot comes to us from the Katha Upanishad, where a person is described as a chariot with a charioteer pulled along by 5 horses, 5 unruly horses, which represent the senses, and the reins of the horses represent mind, and the one who is holding the reins in the chariot is our consciousness. And so the moral of the allegory in that Upanishad is that we need to master our senses and master our mind using the consciousness, so that we're not just pulled along by the forces of nature, primarily within our own being, and we're not just reacting to the world around us. And that is what is depicted here in the Chariot card. The Chariot here represents the will. That is why they are holding a wand or a staff, because that is a symbol of will, as we've seen from the suit of wands. So here we have the will of the individual seated in control of all of the other animalistic desires that are pulling the chariot along, represented by the 2 sphinxes in the Rider-Waite deck. But the sphinx as a symbol contains further meaning. It can be seen as a composite of the 4 elements and a composite of the 4 animals representing the 4 elements in the fixed signs of the zodiac. That is the lion, the bull, the man, and the eagle for Scorpio, where in some depictions the Sphinx also has wings. And of course, in Western esotericism, we have the 4 powers of the Sphinx: to know, to will, to dare, and to keep silent, which every aspirant must learn to master in order to master themselves, with self-mastery very much being the theme of this card. We also have around here a crown that is in the shape of a star, or has a star-shaped diadem on it, I should say. And we've got the canopy over the chariot here, which has got stars on a blue background representing the heavens. And we have symbols of the zodiac on the belt or girdle that you can see around the waist of the figure. So all of this represents the external powers, the external forces or influences, which our individual consciousness, our individual will finds itself situated within. And in ancient times, the movements of the stars were given great importance in terms of what that meant for our fate. And so we have the interplay of the kind of external influences with the internal agency of the figure, which together interplay to produce our purpose in life, finding out what really drives us, what's truly meant for us. And so in addition to having that meaning of gaining self-control, drawing the Chariot card could also mean that you need to find your true purpose in life. Okay, next up we have Strength. The Strength card, we see a woman holding open the mouth of a lion, subduing the lion. Now, out of the two figures in the card, we would traditionally think of the lion as representing the strength in the card, but it is actually the woman that holds all of the strength in this card. It is the woman that has pacified the lion. And so what we have in this card is really the triumph of a inner strength, a spiritual strength, over the more kind of common idea of what we think strength is, which is like a physical strength. The lion is a symbol of our animal nature. It's a symbol of our carnal desires, particularly lust. And to be like the woman, we need to learn to control those desires, which is the theme of the card. Crowley in his deck renamed the card Lust because he just likes to corrupt everything and turn everything upside down. But the true meaning is to be in control of our impulses. So the labor of Hercules, in which he had to slay the Nemean lion, is referred to in this card, which also represents our more spiritual inner nature gaining mastery over our more base animalistic nature. And in the oldest representations of this card, it had a depiction of Hercules wrestling a lion. There are also echoes of the Judeo-Christian figure of Samson in this card, who of course was able to subdue a lion. Similarly, the woman is looking into the mouth of the lion that she has bested in this card. And the long hair of Samson is reminiscent of the long hair of a woman. The long hair of Samson, though, had a spiritual significance. It was his hair that was the source of his strength rather than his physical body, his physical muscles. And once that was cut away, his strength waned. And it was through a process which had a lot of innuendo of temptation that his hair was finally cut. So another cautionary tale about failing to control our desires in order to direct them towards a higher, more spiritual pursuit. The long hair of Samson is also reminiscent of the long hair of the Nazarites, who would dedicate themselves to God, taking vows of chastity or of abstaining from drinking alcohol or other kinds of vows where they forsook many of the comforts of life and many of the what would be regarded as the strongest desires of our being to demonstrate that the strength of their spirit was greater and could overcome them. And so if you draw the strength card, what you're really being asked to do is to look within to find an inner strength, a more gentle kind of subtle strength that you can draw upon to overcome difficulties in life. And don't underestimate that strength and how it can be more effective than physical strength. Okay, next up we have number 9, the Hermit. The Hermit shows a solitary elderly figure, perhaps wise and experienced, who is alone in the darkness and who holds aloft a single lantern to light his way. If you've drawn the Hermit card, it can indicate a period where you're going to withdraw from people, withdraw from social situations, perhaps even take a sabbatical, go on a holiday. And it's indicating a period of introspection and self-reflection. This is not a time to surge ahead with anything. It's not a time where you will already have all the answers you need. All of those things will not be forthcoming, and it's necessary for you to withdraw and look deep within to find those answers. If you draw this card, then finding those answers within is the only path ahead for you. That is what the lantern here represents, and the star and the lantern, it's really the inner light, the light of your own spirit, which you will be forced to kindle and forced to find in order to light your way in the dark that you find yourself in, because there will be nothing else lighting your way. By pure necessity, you will need to find that light. But once you do find that light, it can be a great inspiration to others. In Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey, the hero must go on their journey alone. must overcome many trials and difficulties, but once they have completed those trials, which in many cases represent an inner psychological work, perhaps exploring the unconscious or processing things in our inner world, they gain the ultimate boon of a great truth, a great lesson that they've learnt, a great light that they can bring back with them into the world for the benefit of all people, to become a leader, to become an example to others. And so if you're in a hermit phase in your life and you do find some great inner light, you may be called upon to share that with others. Okay, next is the trump number 10. This is the Wheel of Fortune. So there's quite a lot of very intricate symbolism in this one. You've again got the 4 cherubs, the man, the eagle, the bull and the lion, representing the fixed signs of the zodiac, each a different element. You've got fiery Leo, earthy Taurus, watery Scorpio, and airy Aquarius. They represent the physical universe, the forces which govern the physical universe. So too do these symbols here, representing the 3 alchemical elements of sulfur, mercury, and salt. We also have here the letters of the Tetragrammaton, Yod He Vav He, spelling out the unutterable name of the Most High. Another symbol of external powers governing the physical universe, and encapsulating all of the different elements that make up this existence, with each of the 4 letters of the Tetragrammaton, or 4-lettered names, representing, like the cherubs, one of the 4 elements. And we have here as well the Sphinx, Typhon, the snake, and Anubis, each representing a different spiritual principle. The Sphinx is a good, fortunate symbol. Typhon is a symbol of evil and destruction. The symbol of Anubis is often associated with the afterlife, but he can be seen as a psychopomp, kind of transporting us from the world of the living to the world that lies beyond, from one state to the next. And so all of these symbols together indicate the shifting of the energies of the universe, the changing of the seasons, the changing of the times, and it indicates that a time of change is upon you again. And it also indicates that whatever change is coming, it's largely beyond your control. You are beholden to some extent to the forces of fate, to the forces of fortune. So just go through this next period with grace and acceptance, and with any luck, it'll be a fortunate change of events. The next card, number 11, is Justice. So this card is fairly self-explanatory. It is the woman Justice, and the symbolism is very self-explanatory. You have the scales of justice, which are still all too familiar in our culture. You've got the upright sword, similar to what the Queen of Swords holds, representing an upright but ruthlessly analytical intellect. This intellect certainly doesn't care about your feelings. And so it is with the Queen of Swords as well. And this is the harsh but objective nature of justice. And we have here as well the 2 pillars, which appear are reminiscent of the ones that appear in the High Priestess card, again representing balance between 2 principles and finding the balance and the equilibrium in the universe, much the same as the scales. And a very imperious figure, a very imposing figure of justice, a very magisterial figure with the crown there. So if you draw this card, you may find yourself being an agent of justice, or an agent of the seeking after truth. It may indicate that you're being called upon to stand up for what is right, to act in an ethical manner, be the voice of morality in a situation, but it can also have a more literal meaning of being in a court case, of winning a court case, or perhaps more appropriately for justice being done. So if you're in the wrong, perhaps it's not such a good card for you to draw. The interesting thing about the Justice card, though, is it is part of a secret sequence that is kind of embedded throughout the major arcana, and it's part of a pattern. And that pattern is the classical virtues of Greek and Roman times. There we go. I've mentioned the Roman Empire. I've thought about the Roman Empire today, just like every day, and it's not even the first time today. And I'm sure I'll think about it tomorrow as well. So you've got these classical virtues. There were 4 classical virtues in the Greco-Roman world. They were justice, temperance, prudence, and fortitude, or strength. And you might have noticed something about 2 of those. Justice and strength I've mentioned in this video as 2 of the tarot cards, and of course number 14 in the major arcana is temperance. So we have 3 of the 4 classical virtues, all depicted as women, all represented in the major arcana. The one glaring omission is prudence, who does not make an appearance. There's a bit of a mystery there, perhaps something worth investigating. But apart from that one anomaly, we have all the classical virtues represented in the tarot, and indeed, as I've said, the card of justice calls us to act in a virtuous manner. Okay, next up we have the Hanged Man, number 12. So the Hanged Man is quite a universal symbol in the human unconscious. So the figure hanging from a tree, engaging in some act of great sacrifice of themselves in order for some higher purpose, is a very prevalent symbol in world mythology, in world religion. You have Odin hanging from the tree, offering himself up as a sacrifice. You have Dionysus being engaged in a similar drama. And of course, the most famous example of that today is Jesus Christ, with the tree being substituted for a crucifix. And you can see the outline of the tree here is in the shape of a T. This is reminiscent of the Tau cross, one of the forms that the cross on which Christ was crucified can take in symbology. Now, the figure in this card is sometimes seen as a criminal who has been given the ultimate penalty. But whatever the case, there is some sense of the sacrifice of a life, the sacrifice of a mortal life in order to transcend that, to find something greater, as indicated by the halo here. The individual in this card immerses themselves in a lifeless slumber in order to delve deep within, to find some great truth, some great source of change or transformation. This is the card very much of the mystic. And it can also indicate an upcoming change in one's perspective, as indicated by the fact that the Hanged Man is upside down. We are being called to take a different perspective on life, to gain insight and as a source of change. And as we lie suspended in that state of introspection with nowhere else to go, we may indeed be inspired with that change in perspective. And really, if you draw the Hanged Man card, then you're at a point in your life where you're probably stuck in limbo in some sense. Nothing's happening for you right now, but this is the perfect opportunity for you to stop and reflect and see if what you think you want in life is what you really want. And perhaps you will find that it's time for a sea change, when you just take the time to stop, reconsider your perspective, and look deep within to find what you really want. That may require you to let go of your former self, to sacrifice yourself on the tree in order to transcend your present state. But that is just the change that is necessary at that time, if indeed that is what you're inspired to do. Okay, that brings us to lucky number 13, the card of death. Am I allowed to say that? Do I have to describe this as the card of unaliving? I don't know. In any case, it's a card which makes a lot of people uncomfortable and can be very foreboding when it pops up in a reading. We have the horseman on a pale horse who is called Death, and Hades follows after him. This is the fourth horseman of the apocalypse from the book of Revelation, who is released when the Lamb in heaven opens the seven seals, along with the other horsemen and other things happening. We see the deathly figure here, unmistakable archetype, and the path of destruction that is left. Even a man of God begging for mercy from the onslaught. But all is not lost. We have, even in the midst of all of this darkness, the white rose representing purity, representing new beginnings, also appearing in the Fool card, representing new beginnings, representing life. So we have new life springing from all of this destruction and decay, and here in the distance, very distant, but still visible, we see the sun rising between two towers. And so this is where we learn, as is often said about the death card, that it doesn't necessarily represent literal death. It can represent a change or a transformation, much like the change and transformation that the Hanged Man is engaged in. So if you do draw this card, don't fear. It could just mean that a big change is on the horizon for you, but it could upset some things in your life as you're transforming. It's necessary to shed the old. But this card does seem to suggest quite a radical change in circumstances and or in our lives compared to how they were before. And it can indeed mean what it seems to literally mean in some cases. So just be cautious about that. I drew this card when I was doing a reading for myself for the year in 2019, and I just thought it meant some kind of radical change or transformation in my life. Of course, that was the year that COVID broke out and the world changed forever, and the horsemen of pestilence rode through the world in quite a literal sense. So the card can carry that meaning as well. But that's it. That is the next 7 cards of the Major Arcana. I hope that you enjoyed that. I'll be concluding this series in my next video for a complete meaning of the Major Arcana. So if you did enjoy that, please leave a like on this video. Subscribe to this channel to support my work. Subscribe to me also on Odyssey. And any comments that you have, leave them down below. I hope this has helped you in learning about tarot, how you can interpret the cards in your own readings. So thanks again for listening, and I can't wait to see you next time.